Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for watching. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I made this Cinderella themed cake. This cake was requested by Byron. Thank you so much. I always see you commenting. If you guys have any theme suggestions, you can leave them down in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe for new videos every week and press the notifications bell. It really helps me out. All that said, let's get right into the video. I'm going to start by making my shoe, and I have this template here that I found. It's more of like a sling back design, so I'm just showing you how I modified it with the pen to round out the front and add more to the side pieces. So here's the two parts that I have cut out now, and I'm going to link the template that I use below. I have some really light blue fondant that I've added a little bit of Untitled Chapter to so it dries really firm, and I'm taking the sole part of my template and cutting that out with my X-Acto knife. To get this to dry in the shape of the heel that I'm going for, I'm just putting this on top of a upside down cupcake liner, and I'm going to leave that to dry until it's completely firm and it kind of stands up on its own. I have a ball of light blue fondant that I've added some Untitled Chapter to, and this is going to be my heel. So I'm starting out by pressing one side of that ball straight down into my counter so that it really flattens it out and I get like a really sharp line there. And then I'm just going to start rolling it between my fingers and trying to elongate the bottom of the heel so it's nice and skinny. Cinderella's shoe is more of like a kitten heel, so I'm just trimming that down a bit, and then I'm going to leave this to dry completely before I add it to the sole of my shoe. While those two pieces are drying, I'm going to start on my pumpkin carriage. So I have rolled out more of that really light blue fondant, and I didn't have a cutter big enough for the size I wanted, so I grabbed my trusty Lord of the Rings cup, and I'm just tracing that out with an X-Acto knife and cleaning up the edges with my fingers. Once I had the shape down, I grabbed my fondant tool and I'm going to start marking in the lines for the pumpkin. I rolled out some really light green fondant, and using my cutter, I'm just punching out this flower shape and then cutting off a couple of those petals so I'm left with the three. I used my fingers and shaped them into a bit of a point. And then using a little bit of edible glue, I added it to the bottom of the pumpkin. I trimmed away the excess using my X-Acto knife, and then I decided that I didn't like the way the green looks, so you will see me swap this out for white, which I like much better. To get started on the wheels, I've rolled out some white fondant, and then with my circle cutter, I'm cutting out 3 of those in case I mess one up, which I did, so I'm very thankful to past charity. Using the next size down, I'm cutting out the centers of those and then just pulling it out with my X-Acto knife. I did add Tylos to my white fondant if I forgot to mention that, and I'm rolling out this really long, thin snaky of white, and that's going to go in the center and just coil around for like the spoke part. Once I was done, I added a little bit of edible glue to join the two shapes together, and then I let this dry 100% so that it was really firm and the two pieces won't break. You want to be really sure that it's not soft at all because that delicate little piece of fondant will snap on you. I'm cutting out one more circle of that white fondant, and then with my rolling pin, I want to elongate that so it's kind of more of an oval shape, and this is going to be the door on the front of the carriage. I added that to the center of my pumpkin using a little bit of edible glue. Here you can see where the green got the boot, and I replaced it with white. I thought it looked a lot better, but you can do whatever you like. I cut out another circle of blue fondant, and I'm placing that over top of my oval, and I'm going to cut that about halfway down, and this is going to be like the door. With the circle of pink fondant, I used some smaller circle cutters to create the shapes of the curtains. To give them a little more texture, I just added some lines in using my fondant tool. With a long snaky of that same blue fondant, I am framing my door, just making sure the seam is at the top where the curtains meet. For the tiny little door handle, I have a circle of fondant and I'm just cutting that in half to make this crescent moon shape. I used a mold I already had to create a little flourish on top of the door, but you can do whatever you want. To cover that seam, I rolled out 3 little teardrop shapes of that blue fondant, and you can see this one little piece would not sit in place, but eventually I got it there. I'm covering the flourish on top, the ring around the door, and the door handle with some gold luster dust I mixed with a little bit of food grade alcohol. I kind of over mixed mine, so it was a little too watery, so I definitely had to do a couple coats. It looks like La Poo right now, but I swear it does get better. Now that the sole of my shoe is completely dry, I attached the heel with a little bit of edible glue, and I want to wait until this is completely firm before I add the next step. When it was dry, I rolled out more of that light blue fondant and then cut out the second piece to my template. I brushed the entire side of the sole of my shoe with the edible glue. The recipe I will link below. And then I'm going to wrap my second piece around it. It definitely took a little bit of finagling to get there. You just want the bottom of the sides of your piece of fondant to go with the bottom of the side of the sole, if that makes sense. Hopefully just watching me will clarify that one for you. And at the back, I'm just making sure the seams meet, and I used a little bit more of that edible glue to join them in place. I made a really simple bow out of more of that blue fondant, and then I attached that to the front of the shoe. I already have my 2-tiered cake ready to go, iced, covered in fondant, and stacked, and if you need to see how to do those things, I will link those videos below. Moving back to my carriage, I brushed the back with more of my edible glue, and then to help it keep in place while it dries, I started with a paper towel and that did not work for me, so I switched over to a piece of just scrap blue fondant, and I'm tucking that right underneath until it dries completely, then I'll remove it. I wanted to create like a pleated drape look, so I rolled out some light pink fondant, and then I'm cutting out a rectangle shape. I flipped it over and then curled over one of the longer sides onto itself. I flip that back over, and then I'm folding it the other way to create 2 pleats. If you want 3 or 4 pleats, just make your rectangle a bit larger and add 2 more folds. I flipped it over yet again, and with some scissors, I'm trimming the edges down so that they're a little more thin and they're going to be easier for me to pinch together and create the tapered shape on the ends. I formed it into this horseshoe type shape, and I'm going to let it firm up a bit before I add it to my cake. When they were ready to go, I added them to the very top of my top tier, just using a little bit of edible glue, and I joined them at the tapered ends. So once my shoe is completely dry, I brushed the whole thing with edible glue. I have some white disco dust here that I'm going to dump over the whole thing, and then for any spots that I missed, I'm just using a dry brush to press the glitter on. People have asked me how I feel about disco dust in the past, and generally my rule is that it doesn't go on anything that will not be removed from the cake before it's served. I know it's non-toxic and a little bit won't kill you, but it is still small pieces of plastic. Moving back to my bottom tier, I have some white food coloring gel, and I'm taking that on the end of my fondant tool and creating 4 dots going from largest to smallest, just to create kind of like that falling glittery effect, like when the pumpkin turns into the carriage. I got this idea from another cake that I absolutely loved, and I'm going to link that down below. I'm adding the wheels on either side, just making sure I have enough of that glue on there where the part of the wheel that touches the pumpkin is going to be nice and secure. For the top tier, I wanted to create like a swirling effect of that magical white sparkliness. So I'm just starting out with small dots and lining the pattern I'm going for, and then just adding in some larger dots all over the place and little teeny tiny crisscrosses of white as well. Place my shoe on top of the cake at a bit of an angle with some edible glue on the bottom. To help cover the seam of where the drapes meet on the top tier, I'm creating a really simple bow using this long strip of pink fondant. I popped that on there, and then this was the final result, guys. I really hope you like it. I was trying to go for more of like a simple, understated look, yet still really pretty and really doable. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave your theme down below. I'm going to try to do requests every Thursday/Friday. I will see you in the next one.